Hello, my beautiful PhD friends. So, does a PhD make you overqualified? Well, it does and it doesn't, but I'm going to show you the ways that you can convince someone outside of academia that you are the right candidate for them. This video is brought to you by my newsletter. Head over to andrewstapleton.com.au/newsletter, that's it, and enter your email address there because I'm going to share with you exclusive content, invite-only Q&As. You can only get the information by signing up to that newsletter, but also as a thank you for watching these videos and supporting the channel over the last 6 months in particular, I want to run a competition. So I asked you, what is the number one gift under $100, because I'm not loaded, that you would want to receive to make your PhD better? And the top recommendation was noise cancelling headphones. So I went and bloody got them for you. So head over to the newsletter, and in, let's say, about 2 weeks, I'll sort of send out the information soon about how to enter the competition. It'll just be clicking a link in the newsletter, and then I will choose someone to win these. So good luck, everyone. Head over to the newsletter to get the information on how to enter. How exciting is that? But also, just a little thank you. Thank you for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. It is something that I hear a lot, and that is having a PhD makes you overqualified. Now, I've never heard such an insane amount of rubbish, and I think it's because, right, when people say stuff like that, they're generally scared. It's the unknown. It's like, what happens in university? Why are these people there? Why have they spent so much time doing that rather than being in the real world? And I feel like there's a misunderstanding of what a PhD is by someone who isn't in academia. Now, there are a few ways to combat that, and we'll go through those soon, but it really can change the way people perceive you as a person. Arguably, the majority of people outside of academia look at people inside academia and consider them like nerds, like just people who have got the smarts but unable to translate that into real life, real kind of results in like a practical sense. And, that's clearly not the case. People that do PhDs are smart, they're driven. Some people are incredibly talented in a number of different areas, and I think having a PhD can start to define you, not only as yourself, is like, I have a PhD, this is what I am now, but also to people outside, like he's a physicist, she's a chemist, he's a biologist, they are a psychiatrist. All of those things really can play into why people are so confused about what a PhD is, and they can start to define you by it. So what does overqualified mean? Well, I guess it means, in the instance of someone that won't employ you, they think that you are so specialized in an area that you'll be unable to understand or adapt to their way of thinking, which is clearly not the case. I think there's this kind of idea of these soft skills. Now, I don't like calling them soft skills because they are essential skills, but people call them soft skills, and it's like communication, writing, problem solving, all of the sort of emotional intelligence stuff, and it can be really, really challenging to get a potential employer to see you as those skills, as opposed to, oh, this person has done a PhD, they clearly won't be interested or in this project or this job. And maybe, I think as well, there's that kind of perception that you'll be looking for the next best thing, like you're overqualified, which maybe from an employer's standpoint means they're going to move on to something more academically challenging in the future. Maybe. I think I've heard that as well. So yes, the next thing is like, how do you convince someone? Let's say you've got a PhD and you want to do a PhD and it's all good, but at the other end, like the getting an academic job is very, very rare, and it's getting rarer. So how do you convince someone in the outside world that you have the skills to give them what they want, which is essentially a good employee? So the first thing I think you've got to do is customize your CV to the point where it doesn't look like an academic CV. This is the most important thing I think you can take from this video, and that is people in the real world, i.e. not academia, They give no shits about papers, about grant money, about how many students you've kind of helped. That is a foreign concept to the majority of people. I used to be absolutely amazed. I have quite an active social life outside of academia when I was doing my PhD and postdocs, and they would say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'd get excited, be like, "Well, I produced this paper." And they're like, "What's a paper?" And you're like, "Oh, are you serious? Like, do you not know what a paper is?" But of course, they're so important in the academic world, and we forget that to someone outside, they mean next to nothing. So that's what you need to sort of get into your mind when you're applying for these jobs. Don't frame your skills as in, I produced 12 papers, I've got 14 papers, I did a book chapter. No one in the outside world knows what that means. What does it mean? I have published results, so you're good at technical writing. Like, that's the sort of translation that you need to do. What's another one? So I've communicated, I've been to conferences. No one knows what happens at conferences. I'm not even sure academics really know what happens at conferences other than getting a bit drunk and dancing like really awkwardly with your PhD students. But, if you go to conferences, I've thrown myself off now. If you go to conferences, you have public speaking, you have presentation skills, you have persuasive skills. You can, condense information, technical information into a very short amount of time and communicate that to an audience. So that's the sort of translation you need to do that needs to be evident on your CV or any other sort of bits of paper that you hand over. Because if you say, a typical academic CV's got this many papers, this many book chapters, this many conference presentations, this many invited talks. No one cares about that in the outside world, I can guarantee you. So make the effort, have like an academic CV and have like a real person CV, and have a deep dive for those skills. And the way you can find those deep skills is to ask yourself which means. So I presented at a conference, which means I'm able to talk in front of a load of people, which means I have the PowerPoint and Microsoft Office skills to be able to pull that together. Delve deeper and see what you've got, and then make sure that's completely obvious on whatever CV you hand over. Yes, that's very important. So the third thing that I think is super important is that you build skills alongside your PhD that you enjoy and that you could see yourself doing out in the real world. Now, I loved communication, so I started writing. I produced a blog, which got me to Science Alert, which got me to Cosmos magazine, which got me, I was a columnist for Australian Quarterly for like a year and a half, I think. So it was really fantastic. And that blog sort of built up a portfolio of evidence that I could hand over and then say, look, this is what I can do. This is my skills. And yeah, it's not easy, right? I spent a lot of my own time doing it, but I did actually really enjoy it. So it wasn't too bad in terms of, feeling like it was overwhelming. I chose my outputs and my time dedication to these things carefully so that I didn't overwhelm myself and cause significant burnout during my postdocs. But you can do those things, and I think it is important now for people to be doing those things so that when you get out the other end, not only do you have a CV, but you have a portfolio of evidence. Now, one place that I learned how to code, where I learned how to animate characters, where I learned about copywriting, where I learned about science communication, was Udemy. Like, really, I don't know, you can pick up a ton of courses. Some of them are rubbish, some of them are great, but I have learned so much from udemy.com that, and this isn't a paid promotion. This is just me going and saying, well, these are actually really valuable courses. They don't result in a certificate necessarily that means anything, but it starts to help you build that portfolio of evidence to say, yes, I can do these things. And also learning things you actually like is really fantastic. And I think when you're doing a PhD, you need to embrace the learning again and just take one of these courses. They're like $10. They're really great. And you can build a whole new range of skills, and it can help support your PhD or your postdocs. But also you're building up that portfolio of evidence so that when you're ready to leave, you can go, look, these are the skills I've got, and that's how I can help you in this role or job. So a PhD can close some doors. And that's not necessarily because you're incapable, but like I said at the beginning, it's because you are perceived in a certain way by an outside observer looking into academia and being scared, being uncertain about what you actually have done in there. And that can put people off. So one thing I would always say is don't do a PhD just because. You've really got to start with the end in mind. It may be that you don't need a PhD to get where you're going. You just need a lot of evidence of specialized skills, right? And you can pick up those skills outside of academia on your own, in a short course, in something more structured at a university. Like, it's completely doable and possible. Now, doing a PhD does open some other doors, like patent attorney work, like lecturing in university, like becoming your own academic sort of thing. And also for me, it did open a door, or made the door easier to open, because I spent 13 months as an explosives chemist in Dyno Nobel. And everyone in the R&D team had a PhD, or nearly everyone did. And so it just meant that the person who was hiring me knew what I could do, knew my skills. My science skills was in colloid and surface science, and emulsion explosives fit perfectly with that. So it was a bit of a no-brainer for them. And also they understood the value of a PhD because they all had PhDs. So it made that door slightly easier to open and get through. But yeah, it's tough. So please start with the end in mind. Where do you want to go? What do you want to be? Who do you want to work for? Do you need a PhD? If you don't, what other ways are there to build up skills which makes you attractive to this potential employer? And yeah, don't just do the path of least resistance. I've said that tons and tons on this channel, but really it doesn't make sense. So does a PhD make you overqualified? Yes and no, but there are ways to convince people that you are still the perfect candidate for them. It just involves delving a little deeper. Now, the great thing about this is I genuinely think that perceptions are changing because PhDs are becoming more common. People are kind of seeing it, now as an advanced undergraduate, and there's so many PhDs on the market now that I think people are understanding a little bit more, especially in industry, that, okay, well, this is what they do, this is the skills they bring, and making sure that you're completely over and you write down and make explicit all of the soft skills that aren't soft skills, essential skills, but all of those skills are made obvious when you're applying to a potential employer outside of academia who may consider you overqualified. You need to make it completely obvious that you bring this whole range of skills and not just your, thesis, essentially. So yeah, there we are. That's all of what you need to know about being overqualified. Let me know in the comments what you would add to that. And remember to sign up to the newsletter at andrewstapleton.com.au/newsletter, because I'll be giving away some noise cancelling headphones very soon. All right, until next time, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.